カーネーション2000本と白いの100本注文したから日本人は単純だからな。
Oh, hi, Jeff Bezos. Say, how's that Rings of Power show doing? So, yeah, after a pretty damn bad chain of episodes, I was told that this show would thankfully pick up here. Though honestly, after 2 episodes of eye-rolling ships, I think just about anything would be better, like a cold opener at a cemetery. Okay, that's a little different. Yeah, when your episode opens like that, you can tell something is gonna hit like a brick wall. The episode proper opened with the Ojamajo's class getting ready for art, where the subject matter ends up becoming drawing their mothers for their day that was just the following Sunday. And immediately, the Ojamajo asked Aiko what she was gonna draw, and she just casually said that she'd draw her mom, not even bringing up the whole divorce stuff. I really like this, as not only did it subtly show the bonds between these girls, it also kind of acted as a bit of a microcosm for the rest of the episode, with Aiko's casual acceptance of her slightly estranged relationship with her mother. Yeah, come on, you should be paying her and not Frisk from Undertale. Of course, Masaru was being angsty as usual, though there was something else that was taking precedence. Huh, does Kimura have something in his hair? I mean, I get that they're trying to be subtle here, but I think it would have helped if they made this tear a little more distinct and angled it in a way that more clearly came from Shiori's eye. Also, hi animation error Kimura. Well, either that or maybe Kimitaka joined this class. But yeah, as for why she was crying, well, Masaru knew the reason, and thus did what he does best, be an angsty little brat. Yeah, I get what he's trying to do here, bury the assignment, likely in the hopes that it would relieve Shiori of feeling like she needed to do it, and it was a cute gesture, but come on kid, you can't keep this act up forever. Anyway, we learned that, not too surprisingly, especially after that cold opener, Shiori's mother had passed away when she was young. A fact that Seki should have obviously known as her teacher, and thus probably shouldn't have opened up some old wounds like that. But a really good thing about this episode is that it has some good subversions that actually add nuance to the story, rather than just being a teacher who's ignoring her students' issues. Also, yes, there is such a thing as good subversions, not that you'll find any in modern media these days. Anyway, after a brief scene at the Mahojo, where they established that white carnations were often used as flowers to the deceased, we cut to the next day when Shiori was being dropped off at school. However, her dad probably should have gone a little closer, I mean it looks like there's a hill he could go up, just to make sure that she actually went to her classes. Yeah, things were still a little awkward after that art assignment, so she decided to forgo her perfect attendance and just hang out at the park, where she predictably had some company. That said, as we'd soon see, both kids had significantly different reasons for why they didn't want to draw their mothers. In any case though, as it just so happened, Opun was also tardy, having been held up by a gig, so she happened to spot the two. This was very fortunate, as some unsavory rumors of the two were being spread, mostly by these 3 tone killers. Excuse me? I'm honestly not kidding when I say it took a lot of my willpower for me not to punch my monitor, especially when the episode had such a nice mood going until these 3 appeared. Anyway, Ombu told Seki about what she saw, which got her running to the park. Our heroines decided to tail her by sneaking out and using their fairy partners to replace them, and oh Jesus Christ. Okay, am I the only one kinda freaked out by these transformations? Well, at least it was followed up by a cuter one, which was the first group transformation of this second season. Yeah, it's a little disorienting, especially with the flowers containing everyone's sequences bouncing around all over the place, but at least it was freeing up time in this episode, which was needed here, unlike in the previous episodes, where the less time spent on the main plots, the better. Anyway, as hinted at earlier in the episode, Masaru didn't actually have any real issues with his mother, or rather, stepmother. Yeah, kind of refreshingly, they just casually got along, with Masaru even seemingly fully accepting her as his new mother after his biological mother died in a car accident. Again, it kind of calls back to Aiko and how not everything needs to have an overdramatic situation to it. That said, there was still some drama, as while he had no issues with the stepmother as a person, he still hated the stigma that came with just the term itself. Yeah, an unfortunate fact of the step-parent is that there will always be at least some negative connotation to it, I blame Disney, that does generate sympathy from others, even though, as Masaru put it best, it wasn't any of their damn business to judge. Shiori ends up saying same to a lot of this, though as we'd soon see, there was a little more nuance to her and Seki's motivations. On that note, Said Educator arrived to tell her sob story. Yeah, not too surprisingly with this episode's heavier theme, she also had parental issues. It's a little predictable and laughable how 3 people with such issues could all end up in the same classroom, but whatever, it's for story purpose. And if anything, I did like that Seki apologized for making to participate in an assignment that could have and really was triggering. Though, in her defense, she did believe that they needed to move on to the acceptance part of the mourning process, which she tragically had to go through rather young in her life after the passing of her own father. Still, I do have to say, so far, this has been kind of a standard deceased parent episode. I mean, it's certainly not bad in the slightest, and interesting to see different perspectives of how people deal with loss, but maybe it's because I've seen this sort of story even in other toy properties, but I haven't really felt any significant gut punch just yet. I think they would have to do something really different to really strike a chord with me, like...
失礼ですが、幼い頃にお父様を亡くされていますが。
はい。
That. Yeah, okay, so I know some of my commenters expected me to have a big emotional reaction to likely another scene coming up in this episode, but I'm gonna be honest, this scene with Seki was the emotional high for me. I think it's because I've had friends and family members who have gone through similar discrimination over things that are well beyond their control at the workplace. Now, of course, nowadays, it's all about fulfilling certain quota, but I won't say any more than that. Point is, there is, and likely always will be, some form of workplace discrimination, and I can only applaud this kids show for giving fair warning of that. In this case, it was through Seki making the argument that she was both trying to toughen up her students for such eventualities, as well as pay respects to their mothers. And while I personally don't agree with all of her methods, as I think she is kind of rushing them through the grieving process, I do understand her arguments and believe the subject matter makes for a good debate, which is always a sign of a great show. So yeah, I thought this part of the episode was the best part, and while what's coming up is also really good, it just didn't draw quite as much of an emotional investment out of me. On a side note, to the commenters who said I was gonna cry over this upcoming scene, well, I didn't, and that's probably because y'all told me about it, and thus made me a little bit more mentally prepared for it, so yeah, just keep that in mind next time, please. That said, I did really like the twist that Shiori's tear wasn't over the assignment or the frustration it generated like it did with Masaru, but rather her facing the fact that her mother's face was becoming a distant memory, as, yeah, part of the grieving process sometimes involves completely forgetting about those old memories. The same was happening for Masaru, but more because he was moving on to his current mother, which he was embarrassed of because of course his little brat was just being a little edgelord. Still, in Shiori's case, while completing the grieving process was important, incidentally forgetting her mother's face was unfortunate, so the Ojamajo decided to help. Thus, the next day, when they were selling Mother's Day flowers to everyone, including their classmates, they gave Shiori a magical stage enchanted Edelweiss that truly lived up to its flower language. Thus, the episode ended with a very nice montage of each of the Ojamajo and Masaru giving the mothers flowers, though in Aiko's case, she wisely used Magical Express rather than the post office to deliver hers. Meanwhile, Shiori and her father left the Edelweiss at her mother's grave, where they were able to get one last glimpse of her, allowing both to move on while also remembering her face. For me, this was an amazing, emotionally charged episode, though perhaps for reasons y'all didn't exactly expect. Don't get me wrong, the Shiori subplot, including that ending, was very well done, but honestly, I was clapping more for Seki's part of the episode and the very mature viewpoints it brought in. Then again, I think one of the big points of this episode was to show how people go through the grieving process differently, so yeah, me actually having some different priorities for the story is all the more appropriate. Appropriately, and even though Han was barely in this episode, this show finally got back on track when they brought back the mother storylines. Granted, this was more of a parents in general sort of story, as in Seki's case, this was about her father, but close enough. On that note though, I absolutely loved the main conflict of this episode, as it painted it in all shades of grey, with differing viewpoints, with none being objectively less valid than the other. Sure, you can have your personal views on who's right or wrong in this situation, I certainly do, but ultimately, these three characters all bring up good points. Be it Masaru refusing to be coddled over something that he's more than likely overcome, Shiori not wanting to forget her mother's face, or Seki trying to prep her students for the future. I personally relate the most with the teacher, and am legit blown away that they actually brought this all too real subject matter in this sort of show. I mean, sure, the grieving process is also a very mature theme, but I wasn't expecting them to throw workplace discrimination in there too, but I'm glad they did, as it did add to the argument over what's the right way of approaching the grieving process. And ultimately, it's up to the person themselves. Not that people can't lend a little bit of a helping hand like the Ojamajo did, who needed to do something in this episode, and it did lead to a very touching moment. Honestly, overall, I don't have much to complain about this one. It handled nuanced topics very maturely and had well-directed scenes like Seki's flashback and that ending montage. About the only thing I can complain about is these three, but that's kind of a given at this point. And with that, we're going to try and wrap up production on intro video for Milky Holmes by the end of the week, hopefully. I mean, it is mostly done, but I might add in a few extra details, as I really do like this franchise, and hope that you will too when we start covering it for this channel. So do look forward to it, and until then though, for now my friends, and yeah, I might need to go buy a new table and window.